Hello everyone, I would like to welcome you all to sportsnetworker.com. My name is Joshua Lagan. I have a very special guest with me today, DeMaurice Smith, President of the NFL Players Association. Dee, thanks so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Great to join you.
Dee, when I was looking through your history, you had a pretty unique background. I was hoping to start at the beginning of your college years at Cedarville University, a small liberal arts school in Ohio for those who don't know it, and have you talk about your decision to go there and how it prepared you for your future career.
Well, I went to a Baptist high school in Washington, D.C. Cedarville was a school that had recruited a number of players, athletes to run track, basketball at Cedarville. And when I went to visit, it seemed like the perfect school for me, the right size, the right opportunities, the things that would interest me. But really, the big change for me was a few of the professors at Cedarville. When you have that rare mix of being able to enjoy sports and you're with people who can excite you mentally, intellectually, spiritually, it became just a tremendous place for me to go to school.
So you were a track runner in college, correct?
I was a track guy.
I was reading about that. It seems like you had some success. You referenced that in some of your interviews.
Well, we had a great track program at Cedarville. I loved it a lot. I was fortunate enough to run well while I was there. I will tell you that those days are over. I lost miserably to my 12-year-old son a few days ago, and so those are all just historical memories right now.
Well, you got the memories to go back to, so that's good. So it's what parts of Cedarville would you say were like the most beneficial for your future career? Like some of the things you mentioned in some other interviews I was looking at, you said it really matured you. It taught you leadership. It taught you independent thinking. Just talk about that for a little bit.
Well, you go there like anyone coming out of high school, and the maturation progress is something that's probably that moment in your life that's truly transformational. For me, I became involved with student government as freshman class president, and then ultimately became student government president. It was a great opportunity for me. It was the first time an African American had been the president of the Student Government Association. Track was one, again, where you mature as an athlete in a way that you didn't think that you could. And I look back on my coach, Elvin King, who taught me so many things that you can't really learn in any other environment or any other paradigm. I mean, when you are in a situation where a man or a coach is able to bring things out of you that you didn't think you had. It's a tremendous opportunity for growth. And then, professors like Dr. Gary Persesepi, my philosophy professor, again, people who challenged me intellectually in a way that I had never been challenged before. Those are tremendous opportunity. And again, for the growth of my faith, learning about how all of that fit into a very neat paradigm. Those are things that remain with you for the rest of your life, and you may not recognize it while you're going through it, but you are truly maturing as an individual, and for that I'll always be thankful that I went to a place like Cedarville.
Thank you for that. And I've actually gotten to visit Cedarville a couple times. I mentioned in the email, 3 of my older brothers all went there.
Oh, wow.
So I've gotten to go to the chapels. I've gotten to meet Dr. Brown, who you referenced as one of your influences. So I can definitely attest to the speakers, or the teachers, and the students there, because I felt inspired just with my weekends there.
It was just a tremendous place, and I look back at it with just tremendous memories.
Wonderful. My next question is related to your law career and switching into sports. You worked for 9 years, I estimated from your LinkedIn, at Patton and Boggs, Latham and Watkins, doing all kinds of different corporate crisis, white collar, trial attorney, all different types of law, and then I switched into sports. So clearly you were a sports fan because you ran track, but could you just talk about what was going through your mind and the decision making in that?
Yeah, sure. I've had a great career, a number of careers, it seems like now, even before going into private practice. I was a prosecutor here in Washington, D.C. for almost 10 years. At its core, regardless of whether you're in this job or in a law firm job or in a prosecutor job, I think the first thing that you look for is a great challenge and a great opportunity. And what I loved about all three of these careers was that it gave me an opportunity to really try to perform at an extremely high level where there were clear risks of success or failure. And for me, those are the kind of things that I dig. I like the passion that comes from challenging yourself to perform at a high level. I love the opportunity to try to help people become better. So whether it was, as a kid prosecutor here in the city, trying homicide cases, or whether it was representing some of the biggest corporations in the world, or whether moving into this job and representing the players of the National Football League, regardless of what the content or the subject matter was, it was all about partnering with the right teams, making sure that you performed at a very high level, and making sure that the people around you performed at their best. And I love those things intellectually. I love those things as a challenge emotionally. And it's been a great ride.
I'm curious now, how did the NFL job present itself? Like, how did you find out about that opportunity?
As simple as it may sound, I was sitting at my desk one day and the phone rang, and it was a person from a search committee who said, we're putting together a group of, a few hundred people to be considered for this job of executive director of the NFL Players Association, and are you interested? And really it started as simply as that. It came out of the blue. I was sort of headed into another direction, working on the transition team. So for me, I had really thought that one of two things was going to happen. Either I was going to stay at the firm or go back into public policy, into the government when the call came. And talked it over with my wife, prayed about it, thought about it, and the process kind of developed until I was sitting in this chair.
So living by faith, as you talked about in your speech to Cedarville in 2010.
Well, you have to, because look, if I've had a great job, I've had great careers, I've been able to do a lot of different things. You kid yourself if you believe that you have either the wherewithal or the ability of truly mapping out your future, and all of that assumes that you even know what's best. I look back on being a prosecutor and all of the things that went into getting that opportunity, and all of the crazy things that I had to manage and we had to manage while I was there. You're truly kidding yourself if you believe that you as an individual have the ultimate ability of steering your life or steering your faith. I met my wife through the University of Virginia because I didn't get the summer job that I wanted one day, and I ended up working at the Attorney General's office in Virginia, really at the last minute. And who knows? I met my wife there, and we've been married for 20 years. So, my guess is if any of us believe that we could kind of do this ourselves, you're just kidding yourself all the time.
Yeah.
All you've got is faith.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that, and my my ending up here in New York City is a testimony of that as well. But this interview is about you, so I'll save that for another time.
The other, you will do the next interview after this.
Perfect. So during the NFL lockout last year, obviously a pretty big event, you represented the NFL Players Association. For a little over 4 months, the NFL was locked out, and it was really tense, really public, really stressful, especially for us fans. I think a lot of us are wondering, and by a lot of us I mean me, What did your life look like during that? Like, are you flying around the country meeting with different owners? Are you locked in a room with Roger Goodell? Like, what is your day to day look like during that period?
It was a little bit of all of that. The lead up to the lockout was really the most important thing that we placed a premium on. In much the way that a game is played or a play is snapped, here we really think not so much of how the play is going to be executed. It's whether or not you're going to be in the right position to make a play at all. So the real important part was the lead up to the lockout, preparing our players about what the issues were, how important those issues are, how they had to protect themselves and think about the business of football. And then during the intensity of those negotiations for about a year and a half, that's exactly what it was. You do whatever it takes to make sure that the people you represent are aware, that they're empowered, that they're in a position to make the right decisions when they have to. Was it stressful? Just a little bit. But at the same time, I'll never forget. I guess it was probably this week or next week were really the critical dates. My wife was on a trip with some of her friends. My kids were home alone. It was trying to negotiate the deal down here, and my daughter called up and said, Dad, there's no food in the house. So during the most important part of that lockout, yours truly was zipping off to the supermarket and in a relatively short amount of time buying everything my kids could have possibly need for the next 3 days. You end up juggling a lot at the last game, but we got it done.
How's that for a de-stressor? Running to the grocery store.
In all seriousness, I was flying through the aisles buying whatever list my daughter had texted me, and ESPN was camped out in front of our building, so they were tracking our every move. I'm in the milk department trying to figure out what percentage of skim milk to buy, and a guy comes up to me and he says, "Aren't you the guy who represents the players, and shouldn't you be negotiating a deal right now?" I just remember turning to him going, can you just please leave me alone for about 15 minutes? I just got to get this done. But we did, and it was a testament to really how good and how strong our player leadership is.
I was going to ask, did you have a moment where you suddenly realized, like you grew up watching the NFL, you're the negotiator, but it sounds like that was kind of your moment.
That was the moment. I'm the milk purchaser. That's the most important job I have.
Well, I never saw that photo on ESPN, so it looks like you're safe for now.
It worked out.
President of the NFLPA sneaks out to buy milk during procedure.
Yeah, that's all I needed.
Yeah. So maybe it was this incident, maybe it was another one, but I was curious, what moment would you say you've been most proud of during your career? Like, was it when you finished the lockout? Was it some case you did? What would you say? You sat back and you're just like, I'm glad I was a part of this.
Yeah, I've been lucky to have a few of those moments. My last trial at the U.S. Attorney's Office was the prosecution of a quadruple murderer. I can think back at a kidnapping case that I had where we were able to secure the release of a 13-year-old boy who had been kidnapped. I can remember representing some of the best companies in America, achieve something that they thought that was important. In the last 5 years, I'll be dead honest with you, the probably one of the peaks was after we had been locked out and so many people in the media talked about how the players were going to fall apart, they weren't going to be able to last. They would treat the lockout as the moment in which the league owners broke them. And we were at our annual meeting in Marco Island in Florida, and I can remember the tremendous amount of calm with which our player leaders approached the fact that they were actually locked out. Nobody panicked. Nobody lost their mind. Nobody was overly concerned. Everybody understood what was going to happen. and in a very disciplined and mature way, you saw a group of football players grow up and accomplish something that many people thought they couldn't do. And that will probably be one of the most significant moments that I'll ever have.
Beautiful. As a football fan, it speaks to me. So one of the things I've really appreciated about your time as president of the NFLPA is you've really stressed to the players about taking control of their careers, the importance of family life, the importance of education. Can you talk about how you're communicating that message to the players and how it's being responded to?
Yeah, I don't try to talk to players in any different way, and I have heard that some like to sort of characterize it as a new way of talking to players or talking to them in a different way or expecting more out of them. Why wouldn't you just approach a player like a man, like a family man, like a member of the community that he is? And to me, that expectation of them is the same expectation that I would have for my son or my daughter. I want you to be a good person. I want you to be a good family person. I want you to be a great member of your community. I want you to respect yourself. The thing that you do is certainly a great thing, but it's a job. And you have an opportunity of doing something that many people in the world would only dream about. But what comes with that is a tremendous amount of responsibility, not only to your community, but certainly to yourself. And if you, in any way, shape, or form, play this game at a very high level, but you fail to serve your community at a high level, or if you fail to serve your family at a high level, at the end of the day, the person you failed the most is yourself. So for our guys, I love what they do on the field, but to be dead honest with you, I am far more concerned about them getting their college degree, getting their graduate degree, if that's what excites them. I'm far more concerned about what they do in their community. I expect them to support and provide for their families, and at the end of the day, to respect themselves as young men who, at the end of the day, will be non-football players far longer than they were football players. So it seems to me that if we are able to do those things, those are truly the measures of what it means to be a man. And to me, while football is an incredible sport, at the end of the day, those are the things that they should be looking back on as really success strategies, not so much what their runs after catch were, or how many picks they had, or how many touchdowns they had. They're going to touch far more people by the things that they do off the field than they do on the field.
I'm hearing Cedarville speaking to me right now, and it's the same message they talk on their Sunday chapel. So
they do, and to be surrounded by coaches and professors who believe that, and then giving you the opportunity to live it. I'm blessed, and Cedarville became really an extension of the way in which I was brought up by my parents, and as we go forward, it's now what I try to instill in my own kids.
Yeah, wonderful. So changing a little bit, so talking about your career, what would you say the qualities and skills that you've exhibited helping you rise to your current position? Which are the ones that you would say are most important? Like, we have a lot of speakers in the program we're in, and they always emphasize you got to be the first one in and the last one out, and like they're like obviously integrity and honesty and stuff. But in your career, what would you say the qualities that you've had that have been most important?
There's always many and there's a range, but the thing that I try to impress upon my kids is courage. It is very hard in today's world, and I think probably where we are media-wise today is the greatest contributor. There's so much negative message, there's so much talk where people can instantly criticize instantly castigate anything anybody says, and certainly what anybody does. And I think the downside of that is you can almost become paralyzed into inaction because you are overly concerned about how that's going to be portrayed on your Facebook page, in Twitter world, on Skype, or on some sort of media outlet. And as a result, people are afraid to take stands, afraid to do something that's risky. You know, there comes a time when all you have is your courage, because you can certainly write down on the sheet of paper the 6 reasons why you should do this, the 6 reasons why you shouldn't do this, and it's easy to choose not to do it because no one's ever going to criticize you for not taking a step. So at the end of the day, a lot of times all you have left is your courage and overcoming your own fear. And you know, I'm very fond of those wisdoms, those pieces of learning where you look at people in tough situations where they ultimately just had the courage or the faith to take the step, and you know, not knowing how the story was going to end. And all of us, you know, love those heroic stories where someone tells some story about, you know, a guy or a gal doing something very important, but you know, you remember that all of those stories are told from the end of the story backwards.
Yeah.
The person who had to live the story didn't know how the story was going to end. And if you boil those things down, there is always going to be a moment where you can't reason or think your way through it. It will be a fundamental decision of faith and courage. And having that, and having the knowledge that the people who truly care about you are going to love you no matter what, and that's the part of the time of the day when you should probably flush all the blogs down the toilet and turn your Twitter off and shut down your Facebook page and not read the op-eds. Those are the days where truly courage will take you to where you need to be. And for that, there's a lot of things that I learned, but you only experience courage. And I'm blessed to have great bosses who have trusted me enough to put me in positions to fail or to succeed. And that's how you get there.
Well, I think your life is a testament to that. Your career going into the lockout, that was not a clean situation. It was a pretty messy situation. Lots of opportunity for failure, as you just said. But I mean, you showed courage and you showed faith, and I feel anyway like that your efforts were blessed, and you got the result that you wanted. So it's cool hearing about courage and faith from you, because your life proves that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So my final question for you, because I know how
Yep.
important your time is, what advice would you give to people looking to break into the sports business industry?
Mm-hmm. You know, 2 simple things, and it's the first one is about any industry. If you don't dig it, don't do it. You know, there are so many things that you can do in life. If you have the opportunity of finding something that you enjoy, pursue it with all your passion. Because at the end of the day, that you know, all of these jobs are tough jobs, and you might as well dig what you're doing, as opposed to going to work every day and hating it. I really can't think of anything that'd be worse than that. The second thing, whether it's the sports industry or any other thing that relates to sports, you know, find out what it takes to be good, and to understand it, and really sink your teeth into understanding all of the things that go into that business. And that is not really a readily apparent thing, I think, to a lot of folks. you and I both know that, heading into this lockout, the wind up into the lockout, you had all sorts of pundits talking about, this is an important issue, this is not an important issue, whether it was a rookie wage scale or 2 extra games or name your issue. Very few people actually took the time to really dive into to learn what the issues are. And at the end of the day, understanding the field in which you want to pursue, understanding what factors are important, understanding where the pressure points are and where they aren't. It really isn't an opportunity to try to oversimplify things. The real trick is understanding all of these things fully and then trying to figure out how the pieces of the puzzle come together. And for anyone who's thinking about this job, I got to tell you, it's one of the best jobs on the planet. It's also one of the hardest jobs on the planet, but it's not beyond anybody's grasp. It's about understanding it, and if you understand it and you want to work hard to figure it out, and if you love it and you dig it, I can't imagine doing anything else that's more fun.
Well, that's awesome, Dee. Thank you so much for your time. You have a wonderful story, and it's so nice to hear the tips and the things that you've learned from your experience. So thank you again for your time.
My pleasure, and thanks for calling me. And take care of yourself, all right?
I will. Thank you, Dee. Have a good day.
You too.